So in my position here at camp, some of the big things that I do is I take care of the auction, the festival, the golf scramble, appreciation banquet, bake sale, which I know is a big hit. So when I was thinking of things that I wanted to talk about today, all I really had to do was take one look at my office, and I knew precisely what I should be talking about, and that is our auction and our quilts, more specifically our quilts. So I took one look around, I saw the stacks of beautiful quilts in my office, and I knew it was time to talk about them. So I'm not a quilter myself, but having been here at Luther Crest for a few years now, quilting has become something that is a big, important part of my job, and I've learned a lot about quilting through the wonderful folks that I have on my quilt auction committee, some of which I know are in this room right now. So what I know about quilts is that they start off as just a collection of pieces. A bunch of scraps on their own, bits of different colors and different patterns, different textures. But when you stitch them together, they become something beautiful, something useful, something that provides warmth to a lot of folks. So as I look back on my life and I reflect and think about my time here at Luther Crest, I can realize that Luther Crest has been stitching together quilt squares of my life for many, many years. So we've got some slightly embarrassing pictures coming up. Here we go. So one of my first quilt squares was when I was a little second grader and I arrived here at camp for the first time. I'm just gonna put them all up there for you. Boom. So that first square came in second grade. I was a little Catholic second grader. I didn't know about Luther Crest. My church wasn't affiliated with Luther Crest. But I had a best friend who was too afraid to spend time away from her family at an overnight camp. So her family grabbed me and said, "You're going to camp with Katie." And I said, "We can do that." After 1 week, little second grade Mo was hooked. Week after week and summer after summer, camp became a place where those pieces were added to the quilt of my life. There were quilt squares that were filled with screams of laughter in the cabin. During an Omega, when we learned how to chew on mint wintergreen star lifesavers, they make sparks in your mouth. It's crazy. There's quilt squares made from friendships that somehow felt much deeper after just 1 week of knowing people. Quilt squares that were stitched together around campfire songs, worship under the stars with the loons calling, and moments when God suddenly felt a little bit closer than before. As I grew older, more pieces were added to my quilt of life. Some of my favorite squares came from my time with the Wet and Wilderness program, which I still advocate for strongly. It was some of my favorite times as a camper here at Luther Crest. Those adventures taught me readiness and grit and teamwork. There's something about paddling through nature's beautiful stillness, carrying canoes over shallow spots, and sleeping under the stars that strips away distractions and reminds you of what really matters. Those trips gave me confidence. They taught me that I could do hard things and that stepping outside of my comfort zone could be really, really fun. They taught me to trust the people around me and to trust God and the path, even if it wasn't entirely clear. And then, of course, came another chapter. As an undergrad student and as I worked through my master's and PhD programs, I spent summers serving here on summer staff. So I did about 6 summers, I believe. And looking back now, I can honestly say that those were some of my favorite times and most formative years of my youth. Those summers stitched together some of the most important pieces of my quilt. I found confidence, the confidence to speak and to sing really loud here at camp. I found lifelong friends. Some are still on staff with me today, and who you probably can see in a couple of these pictures. I found energy and purpose, and perhaps most importantly, I discovered a passion for my Christian faith that continues to shape who I am to this day. It was during those years that camp stopped being simply a place I attended and became a part of who I am. In 2011, I attended my first ever quilt auction here at Luther Crest as a staff member, and I was so excited to bid on a quilt. I probably shouldn't have been spending my money on quilts at that time during my college years, but there was something really special about the energy in that room, and I wanted to be a part of it. Now, I ended up winning a small tied blanket, but it was from the catalog, and it was mine, and I was ecstatic. I still have that blanket on my couch, and in fact, I used it while writing this the other day. When I pull it over my lap on a cold Minnesota evening, it does more than keep me warm. It carries a lot of memories. It reminds me of being a camper. It reminds me of being a counselor. It reminds me of all the friendships, the laughter, the worships, the countless moments where God was quietly at work in my life. And every time I use it, I find myself wondering about the hands that made it. And I truly don't know who made that quilt. But the hands that select those fabrics, the hands that cut each piece, the hands that stitch them together, the hands that invest hours of their time, maybe their blood, sweat, and tears, putting together something that they might never, ever see again once the auction closes. And those hands matter. They matter a lot. Because a quilt is never really just a quilt. It's a gift of time and a gift of care and a gift of love. And I think that is why camp and quilting has always gone hand in hand. I don't know if you all have noticed this, but a lot of ELCA camps around the country have a tradition of having a quilt auction. And for generations, we've had that here at Luther Crest. And we also have a variety of quilting retreat groups that come all year round. But why are camp and quilts so often tied together? I think it's because of community. Just as quilt pieces are stitched together, people are stitched together. I imagine the conversations that happen around quilt frames and sewing machines, stories shared, laughter exchanged, prayers offered, friendships strengthened. Just as the quilt pieces are stitched together, those communities are coming together as well. And in many ways, that's exactly what happens here at Luther Crest, especially during Women's Week when you all gather. People gather together, they share their stories, they nurture their faith, and friendships are formed. And before anyone realizes it, God is stitching lives together into something stronger and more beautiful than any of us could ever have seen coming. Whoa, we went too far. There we go. So there's a Bible verse that always reminds me of this truth. And it is from Colossians 2:2, where Paul writes that our hearts may be knit together in love, that we may be encouraged in heart, knit together in love, and filled with the full richness of complete understanding, so that we may know the mystery and the love of God. So knit together in love, or quilted together in love. It's a beautiful image. We are not standing alone. We are not isolated pieces. But we are joined together by God's love into something whole. When I look at my own quilt of my life, I can see so many squares that were collected and produced here at Luther Crest. A square of a nervous second grader attending camp for the first time, a square of a teenager paddling down a river on a canoe trip, the square of a young staff member discovering confidence and purpose, a square of a graduate student spending summers helping others experience the same joy of camp that had shaped her own life. And now another square gets to be added as I returned to Luther Crest about 3 years ago in this position as Director of Communication and Events. And looking back, I can see that God was stitching all of those pieces together all along and long before I understood the pattern or the outcome of those pieces. And isn't that true for all of us? We don't always see what God is creating while we're living through it. Sometimes we only recognize the beauty of the design years later when we step back, get some distance, and see how the pieces all fit together. So today, I really want to say a big thank you. Thank you for the quilts you create and the communities you create within them. Thank you for the countless hours that you give. Thank you for the conversations, the laughter, the fellowship we see here at Women's Week, and the community that happens while those quilts are being made. And thank you, because every stitch does more than create a blanket. Every stitch helps create opportunities for campers to encourage people to encounter God's love. Every stitch helps build community. Every stitch helps add another square to the quilt of someone else's life. I know that that is true because it happened to me here at Luther Crest. And because of faithful hands like yours, it is still happening for campers every single day here. So I just want to say a big thank you and a big God bless. And it would be so amiss if I didn't also throw this up on the screen as part of my role here with the auction. We have it coming up on July 11th. I put some extra details on there, but I get the screen's a little small. So if you haven't heard already, it's coming up. And we've got some promo items out in back. I'll be there after worship. If anyone wants to come over, say hi, talk quilts, tell me camp stories. I would love to hear it. But overall, thank you so much, and thank you for being here.